Thank you for staying tuned for our Spotlight session, Adopt Cloud and Build a Responsible Business. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Kishore Durg, Cloud First Global Services Lead, Technology Ventures and Acquisition Lead, Global Leadership Council for Accenture Technology. May I also welcome Mr. Pasha Ponomarev, Strategy Principal Director, Sustainable Technology and Green Cloud, Accenture. And of course, our moderator, Ashwini Mishra, Consulting Editor. As we look forward to this conversation and more, I'd like to remind all our delegates that this is a very interactive virtual platform. So keep sharing your thoughts using our hashtag ET Cloud Strategies. There's a lot more happening for this session on Spotlight session Adopt Cloud and Build a Responsible Business. Here we go.
Thank you for the introduction and welcome to all our viewers. There have been enlightening sessions at the Cloud Strategy Summit today. In this session, we will try to gain some answers around how enterprises can build a responsible business with cloud adoption. Thank you, Kishore and Pasha, for joining us in this conversation. In the last 1 year, we have seen a major shift in the acceptance of cloud within most enterprises. Changes in businesses that were once unthinkable happened overnight, and they happened worldwide. We also witnessed cloud platforms come into their own, providing accessibility for remote workers and customers, and at the same time, providing scalability. The pandemic has reinforced two important lessons for businesses: the importance of cloud-based services and the need to ensure that the model is sustainable. Kishore, for companies beginning their cloud journey, confront a number of questions, which include which cloud provider is best, how should applications be modernized, or which cloud-driven innovations should be priorities. What, according to you, are some of the key considerations for a business to move to the cloud in the new world order?
Thank you, Ashwini. I'll talk to you a little bit about the current market context and share how our clients are thinking. This pandemic has been a wake-up call for a lot of the companies who now realize they don't have the luxury of time to digitally transform and be that leader. What we've also seen that leaders who had a strong digital core going into the pandemic were able to adopt and innovate at a lightning speed. And as a result, they have been able to outpace their laggard peers in revenue growth by 5x. And this is up 2x pre-pandemic.
That's huge.
That's according to our Accenture research. So the COVID-19, Ashwini, has turned cloud from an aspiration to an urgent mandate. It's actually creating a new inflection point that requires every company to dramatically accelerate the move to cloud. And it's obviously foundational for the digital transformation across enterprises to address cost pressures, resiliency, security, and adjust to their operations and customer engagement. Now, I'll explain in very simple terms what are the key drivers that is actually causing our clients and what are they actually keen to benefit from this. One of the things that they are very keen in very simple terms is financial efficiency, which is essentially just shift from a data center to cloud for hosting. Cost savings is up to 40%. Now you could do more with less. You could increase discretionary spend on capturing new markets with this. The second element, which is in a simple term, is speed and agility. Again, I was telling you about the 5x gain that leaders have. That's about taking your legacy systems from setup from days, weeks to hours. And here you're driving value through disruption and avoiding, basically getting a lot more of your services faster to the market. The third driver would be around business transformation, Ashwini, which is again, entering new markets, accelerating innovation, you're opening new channels. And then the fourth one is around the talent renaissance, I would say, because what has happened is it has systematically changed how you look at talent within the firm. You have to embrace a lot new IT skills. You have to reinvigorate the culture. What used to take weeks, people have to be ready to get it done in hours and minutes. And again, this is something that is very new for a lot of the firms. So a lot of these are then translated to how do I leverage technologies to address, do I need to go into AI first? Do I need to take my data center to the cloud? Do I need to take my legacy systems? And as I said, if you really look at the underlying four key business drivers and benefits, it then translates to which part of the curve the client is in? Are they probably advanced, or are they early into the adoption? We know only about 30 to 40% of our clients have actually adopted cloud. So a lot of these drivers are causing clients to pick up in different parts of the spectrum where they invest in, Ashwini.
Right. So good. You touched upon a key aspect here, from aspiration to an urgent mandate. Pasha, so while Kishore has touched upon some of the drivers of cloud adoption, spoken about the financial security, the business transformation benefits that are offered by the cloud. Will cloud migrations also unlock new opportunities like clean energy transitions? How do you see its role in driving green IT initiatives?
Yeah, thanks, Ashwini. It's actually a really fascinating opportunity here because, as we see more and more companies adopt the cloud and move from their kind of organically grown IT infrastructure, right, the one that may reside in an IT closet inside of the building, or a smaller data center or a leased data center, you kind of have this spread out IT landscape. And when you're consolidating that offers fundamental advantages of centralization. And from there, you have advantages of scale. So you have ability to have higher efficiency compute infrastructure. You have ability to deploy really kind of top of the line engineering to improve things like cooling efficiency, for example, which drives down the power utilization. And power is a fundamental component of emissions that come from data centers and IT in general. And the power mix, for example, in India, power mix on average is about 10% renewable. But we've seen large global cloud service providers commit to 100% renewable energy through either direct addition to the grid or through offsets. And I think that is a fundamentally better kind of a place to host your IT workloads. But then at the same time, you have things like being able to also do a more efficient architecture of applications. So running applications natively in the cloud allows you to utilize things like the cloud fabric, which is able to find underutilized capacity on the servers and then make sure that those are used, versus kind of internally you would have to do a lot of work to find that and do that without the advantages of things like cloud native application architecture and cloud computing. So we see a lot of really, really exciting trends there in the space, and we see a lot of large companies stepping up to the plate. So it's definitely, I would recommend taking a look at how we power infrastructure, how we consolidate it, and where we host it.
Right. Quite interesting, Pasha. So, for a long time, we've also seen our economy has been linear. It has been based on a take, make, consume, throw away pattern, So the idea of a circular economy, again, in which waste becomes a resource, is fast catching up. What are your views in terms of India gearing up for this circular economy, Pasha?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting trend. So first, we've seen circular economy catching on all over the world, including in India. I think the old model, as you mentioned, if we take, use, and waste it, is no longer sufficient for society. I think that, if we make something, use it for a very short time, and it ends up in a trash heap, it's fundamentally less efficient than if we design it for long-term use, find second life for it, or even do things like remanufacture and put it into a more advanced utilization. So, for the cloud specifically, what we see, and even in the current pressing challenges like the global chip shortage, ability to use your IT infrastructure longer for different purposes. So, for example, if you take your latest high-end, high-performance compute cluster and 4 years down the line, you remanufacture it and use it for general compute, and then 2 years later, you switch it over to kind of the storage, which are less intensive applications, you're able to dramatically extend that life cycle. And I think that has fundamentally cost advantaged applications for India. The other part as well is, once you get to the cloud, then you have opportunities to create circular economy use cases, like be able to reach out to multiple different partners and offer information and data that helps them match the use or demand for their already existing assets to companies and individuals who may have a use for those assets. And cloud is a really good platform to be able to share and disseminate that information and bring in that demand to further utilize circular economy. And then it goes all the way down to, hey, how can you use cloud to invent new ways to recycle plastics? And we've seen several companies in India going down that route. So new economic models, new business models, new science. Cloud provides a really excellent platform for all of that.
A lot of cases around that, Pasha, yes. Kishore, what according to you would be some of the most compelling value propositions for cloud? And also, if you could highlight on the barrier.
I shared that, the revenue growth of 5x, it is very critical for some of the Indian companies which are not yet fully into cloud. Obviously, they could get a very quick financial efficiency in terms of balancing their running versus IT cost, 30 to 40% that they can get right away. Then there is the issue of capital investment that they could avoid a large capex that we have. While they could quickly adopt to kind of, the brick and mortar versus the born in the cloud retailers, I think there is this mix that is happening also in the Indian market where some of the brick and mortar is also getting into elements of cloud, which we are seeing in the North American market, where the large retailers and the stores which are out there are also gone online. So you will see that pattern play out in the Indian market, and obviously the value propositions that are there are very compelling. So, but how it will play out, it depends on what sort of urgency. Obviously, the COVID has created an urgency, and what sort of urgency that is being seen by the business managers to run these businesses. But we do believe that acceleration in the Indian segment would be as fast as that we are seeing in a lot of the other markets, Ashwini.
Right. So is there an urgency around the talent acquisition as well, Kishore? You touched upon talent in the initial piece of this conversation. How essential it is to have the right skills in place to pursue the cloud journey. And what are some of the in-demand skills that you see today?
Got it.
And how are you enabling it?
Yeah, actually, that's a very nice question. I'll give you a very simple example. In the old world, you had a bunch of developers, you had architecture, you had the testing team, then you had the deployment team, then you had the production team, which used to run this. In the new world, I think with the cloud adoption, a lot of these things are pretty much automated. There's a lot of efficiency in how things get done. And, the old cycle of I will release everything in 6 months, 3 months, and you wait for the feature to come. Nobody has that. It's long gone. Nobody has that kind of patience. So what we are seeing in what is the need for the talent today is, I would give an example, full stack engineer. What do I mean by full stack engineers? I will be able to develop, I will be able to architect, design, deploy, and run. So for example, if you call me for an issue, I will be able to respond to you, fix the issue, and come back to you within minutes. Right. And because, a lot of the retailers have a lot of different content that they need to get to the people, like, a lot of the mega retailers deploy every few minutes. You don't have the luxury of months, weeks, and hours. True. So the type of talent to do that type of work is very different from the type of talent you were actually used to, grooming, and obviously that is the difference. The second type of talent is cloud native engineers who are essentially building in the new, which is, if you want to build a net new business, the cloud native skill is what you need. So we are seeing a lot of our clients. Basically, obviously, some of them want to move the data center to cloud. You need a lot of the migration expertise, the migration experts, and across enterprises, across the mega scalers. What is very critical is how do you build credibility in that system? That is the certification. You got to be a certified architect in XYZ. You got to be a certified migration specialist. So what is happening is you're suddenly seeing a translation of what used to take you a lot of time. You've got to have certifications also very quickly. So we are expecting a lot of the talent to have it within weeks that they are certified in something net new to do. So it's again, learning a new skill, but obviously it's about the client. You've got to get something for the client done in minutes and hours, not weeks and months. And that is the talent transformation we are seeing. And it's also happening at the client side, not just at the service provider side. What we're seeing at the client side is they don't know what to do with all the talent who are working through months and weeks to get things done. So they're also looking at what do I do? So again, there will be, obviously the construct of migrate, accelerate, and run and innovate, which is essentially as you take your business from just migration, you're then accelerating into modernization. That's the question that you're asking. And how do you grow and innovate in that business? Similarly, your talent have to go through these phases. You got to quickly understand how to do things. And again, these skills that I said, whether it's Mac skills, it is a lot of the multi-cloud skills, whether it's Red Hat, whether it is VMware related skills. You need all of that to survive in the new world. And that is something that are very valuable. And you also see a lot of the companies obviously acquire this talent to address a lot of the client needs. And you're seeing an acceleration of that in every market, Ashwini. We are seeing full stack engineers are the new currency.
So there is an urgent need for reinventing and relearning as well, so keep them updated on the whole cloud front.
Absolutely, Ashwini.
Right.
That is very critical.
Right. I guess we are approaching the cutoff time. Final question to you, Pasha. What role does sustainability play in cloud, and how can organizations use cloud to build a responsible business?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, first of all, I think that actually the research that Kishore and I have done over the last couple of years shows that just by migrating to cloud, right, you're getting almost 80 to 90% benefit to your sustainability. The second part is that once you're in the cloud, we hope that businesses will use that power to do something that's sustainable and responsible for their products and services themselves. The exciting premise of the cloud is ability to, as I mentioned before, share information among many participants. So if you are a business that creates physical goods, you are able to then look at, for example, how much water went into growing cotton, how much energy went into processing that cotton into textile, or how many miles and what type of fuel was used to transport that finished good to the storefront or maybe even to the end customer. You're able to trace that information through the entire life cycle of the product. That's feasible only with secure and trusted way to exchange information. That's also private. That's really possible in the cloud. Right. In addition to kind of tangible benefits to individual companies, we're seeing governments and private sector really come together on public goods. For example, ability to predict major flooding events up to 3 days in advance is something that uses really complex geospatial information, weather system modeling prediction. Again, it's feasible to do that in the cloud at massive scale, but not as feasible with on-premise IT infrastructure. So the other part is that we're seeing companies put advantage to things like robotic process automation, machine learning, and kind of machine vision to do things like improve recycling. Like if you're having a really quick stream of plastic waste, how do you sort it in different components so you have a really clean waste stream that you're able to then process through mechanical or chemical means? And again, so those types of use cases are a prime example of how cloud can help businesses utilize that newfound power to make their business sustainable and responsible.
Right. I guess, in the interest of time, I will have to cut the conversation short here. Thank you, Kishore and Pasha, for sharing your insights. I'll quickly summarize. It's beyond doubt that cloud has moved from being a nice to have component to a must have solution within the enterprise environment. Another key takeaway from this conversation has been that the cloud has immense potential, but most of the companies are still scratching the surface. Those who choose wisely, I'm sure, will reap unprecedented levels of innovation, leading to a greener planet and a greener balance sheet, and finally be able to create a responsible business. Thank you once again, gentlemen. It has been a pleasure interacting with both of you.
Thanks, Ashwini.
Thank you, Ashwini.
Pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Mishra, for moderating the session. I'd also like to thank Mr. Durg and Mr. Ponamare for sharing their thoughts with us. It's been a pleasure having all of you on board. We're now all set for our next session, which is going to be a keynote address on risk and security in the digital transformation drive. But before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to welcome all of you to join us in the Experience Zone and connect with our partners at their booths.